Hey everyone, welcome to No Man's Podcast. I think that's what the show is called, where we, the students of S.H.I.E.L.D., or members of the students of S.H.I.E.L.D., produced by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D., talk about the epic 1999-ish Batman super saga, No Man's Land. My name is Vincent Faust, and I am joined by
Mike.
And Michael.
Sup. This episode is called No
Law and a New Order.
Correct. That's what it's called. And we are officially in No Man's Land. And oddly, the cover for the current edition of the trade paperback has a Jim Lee cover.
Yeah, it's actually a nice new Jim Lee cover. I like it.
It's decent. They must have created it just for this. Jim Lee, at this point, he should be in a tangential way working for DC. Wildstorm was sold in '98, I believe, so Wildstorm is now part of DC. But I don't think he touches really any of the. I think he did a few covers, but he doesn't really touch any of the DC books until Hush, I think.
He does like a couple of covers. He was doing some Green Lantern covers before he does Hush.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one is which. Yeah, he does some covers in the Judd Winnick era. But Mike is going to cover the first issue and some stuff.
That's right. So we're now in No Man's Land officially, and what better way to count things off by DC giving us a full one-shot just called Batman No Man's Land, with a holographic moving Alex Ross cover.
Yeah.
Which, short story on this, when Vince and I were at Wizard World Philly a few months ago, like a month ago at this point, remember we found this in like a 50-cent bin?
Yeah.
I was flipping through it, so like I guess I kind of spoiled myself, but this is actually my second go around of reading this volume, as I've read it before. But yeah, so No Law and a New Order is going to all be written by Bob Gale, and all the art's going to be by Alex Maleev. And I'm going to say right now, I like all of Alex Maleev's art to this, and I liked Bob Gale's writing for the most part. I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely going to capture it's really dark and depressing in Gotham City right now, as the first page of the book we're welcome to the Gotham City limits with no trespassing signs, and spray painted over the welcome Gotham City is hell comes to Gotham City. We are in the 93rd day of No Man's Land. Oracle is chronicling events in her journals, and she wants to create these for in case anything happens, someone has chronicled everything. So there will be records of it. And she's got like multiple agents running around the city, kind of doing errands and gathering information for her. The biggest thing now is all of Gotham City has been split up into these groups, and you all each own your territory by spray painting your logo on the buildings you own. So territory is very kind of important at this point. We see this is where we get we also get the iconic map.
Yes.
of who owns what territory. And she kind of goes into seeing what villains have gone where. Like no one's seen Poison Ivy since she's gone into like the Central Park like area. Scarface has a territory, I think, in the Tri Corner, which we'll get to that at the end of this issue, at the end of this episode. The Gotham City Police Department have their own little area, and they're kind of taking back territory, like kind of like street by street, almost very kind of guerrilla warfare-esque of just keep pushing through the lines, and they're setting up like barbed wire on their barricades.
Yeah, and they're going by the Blue Boys.
Yeah. And then we have the Low Boys and the Street Demons, which not clear that those are Nick Scratch's demons. I thought that's what they were going to be, but they're not really.
No,
no relation, I guess.
I think they're just generic gangs. Got to have one or two of those.
The Penguin is living in this Casablanca, like that's how they interpret it, in like this paradise where he auctions off items for and it's for like jewelry or kind of more well sought after goods, because apparently it's heavily rumored that he has a connection to the outside where he's able to get supplies. But this issue actually opens up with, we see the Gotham City Limits signs and a guy who is paying money for a helicopter ride into the city because he wants to drop in food and then watch people kill each other for it. And also we have a priest who's trying to drive supplies into the city and then turned away by the military, as they were not letting anyone in or out of the city, obviously, because the government has completely shut it down. Along with that, Batman has not been seen for months. Ever since Bruce Wayne was humiliated at Congress, he's kind of been in hiding and no contact from him at all. And Gordon, while taking back sections in the GCPD, slowly he's kind of grown this hate for Batman as he believes that Batman has abandoned the city. And he has a lot of hate for him, as like when he tried to get those other jobs and applying for other jobs in different cities, he was laughed away because of his partnership kind of with Batman. It made him look bad amongst other like police organizations. So he's kind of like swelled over a little bit with anger over that. But at the end of this issue, we see a new bat in town that's tagging the bat symbol around the city. So I wonder who that could be. I like this a lot. I thought it set the ground. I thought it set the scene pretty well and hit the ground running, kind of catching us up where we're at. And I thought it really captured like, okay, things are really not good anymore. Like even Nightwing and Robin haven't heard from Batman. The last thing I heard from him was get out of the city. So, and then I particularly like the sequence with Bullock. We thought we see a figure over a bunch of hostages that might look like Batman, but really it's Bullock jumping down and rescuing people as the GCPD or Blue Boys take another territory in Gotham. But what do you guys think of this issue?
I thought it was good. We touch in, I mean, really, mostly we touch in on the Penguin. I think the Penguin's little niche is really cool, and
I like it a lot.
Some of the others are kind of convenient, and we'll presumably get to them later. But like Black Mask is in the fashion district. Two-Face is operating out of the courthouse. Obviously, as you said, Ivy's in the park. No one knows where Joker is either. And I liked Bullock has a bunch of dialogue with Bach and other officers where they're talking about basically just cops and robbers, like who is above the law, who ignores the law, what does the law and being a cop mean in this kind of status quo. And then they get into like the concept of land ownership and protecting your land and everything like that. And I think there's like, considering that this is, a Batman comic book and considering the era and the status quo and everything, I think there's actually a lot of really clever ideas packed in here. And it's also all in character and everything. I thought it was really funny. One of the cops presents Gordon with an idea, and I guess they're going to make a bunch of GCPD boomerangs.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because it's obviously very similar to a batarang.
Yeah, and I think it's the same officer that introduces that shows him his little makeshift bat symbol he made. I mean, Gordon just kicks it over in anger because Essen even says that you're not even supposed to say, like, don't even say the word bat. Just don't even go there because he's that angry and that kind of fed up with Batman. But I thought, I like this a lot. As it, like I said, set the scene really, really well for what's to come throughout the rest of this arc. Michael, do you have anything to add?
Not really. I liked the issue. It was a good start to the arc, set the tone well. I really just like the overall unique setting of this story, how it's a city that's, completely shut down, no electricity or anything. And I mean, that's kind of just the premise of the story. But I feel like these days, post-apocalyptic, like zombie apocalypse type stuff is really big. But, you don't see stuff like that in cities all that often, and there's no like zombies or anything. It's a little more realistic, but the one decision I slightly question is how we jump from the Cataclysm and Gotham getting shut down and closed off, and then we jump to 90 days later, and so much is different already. Like, just because there was so much Road to No Man's Land material, it's a little bit odd to me that they skipped that much time. But I mean, yeah, I guess it would have been kind of difficult to show such a transition, and this is probably where the interesting stuff starts happening. I don't know, but I don't know, just an interesting decision, I guess.
All right. Moving along to Shadow the Bat number 83. And before I get into it, I'll touch a tiny bit more on Bob Gale. So Bob Gale's claim to fame is that he is the co-writer of Back to the Future with Robert Zemeckis and wrote the 2 sequels and produced them and everything like that, and produced the TV show. And he's basically considered, Zemeckis directs the movies and everything like that, but Gale's kind of considered like the mastermind behind the Back to the Future franchise. But I guess he must have had, a thing for comics as a kid and everything, because he's written some comics over the years. Obviously, this entire arc is him. He wrote some Daredevil, which is like, it's like, so Kevin Smith does his thing with Joe Quesada, and then David Mack is kind of brought in a few times because he was friends with Quesada and everything like that. And then you have the Bendis tryout. And again, Bendis and Mack came from the same place. They both were working a lot with Caliber Comics at the time, and that was Quesada's whole strategy. Is he was bringing in huge people and underlooked people like Kevin Smith, Christopher Priest, and he was bringing in a lot of indie people like David Mack, Bendis, and others. And even, I mean, everyone knows Marvel Knight's Punisher as Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, but before that you have the wacky like Angel Punisher, kind of similar to the Spectre, basically the same concept. And obviously that did not stick, but that version was written by Tom Snagowski and Christopher Golden, who were the writers of Vampirella books for Harris Comics, which Quesada was connected with, did a lot of covers for them and stuff. But so you have you have Kevin Smith, David Mack, and then you have Bendis doing an arc, and then you have this Bob Gale thing, which for years was never collected. I've never read it. There's like conspiracies and things like that they didn't collect it because, well, number one, because it doesn't really fit with Bendis's run, which is on either side of it. Also because allegedly it's bad. I haven't read it. Probably never will.
It finally was recently collected, well, with those Marvel Knights trades.
Yeah, and then years later, after Batman and after Daredevil, Bob Gale was part of the initial squad for Amazing Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I think he was only around for the first cycle because Brand New Day basically, it was 3 times a month, and it worked similar to how No Man's Land is going to work for a little bit, where you have a writer tackle one entire arc or creative team, and then they rotate so that they can keep up the schedule. And I think there were pretty much 3 cycles, 3 stables of writers, and I think Gale was just in the first one. And the only one to last all 3 and then get the ongoing gig was Dan Slott. But that's who Bob Gale is. And we've already discussed Alex Maleev, and also connects back to a lot of Daredevil stuff. So Shadow the Bat number 83, we learn more about Barbara Gordon's kind of situation where she has that network. An agent tells her that he saw this bat tag, and so she's wondering about that. Also, we learn that people within Gotham are using the terminology before Quake and after Quake, BQ, AQ, which I think, all things considered, the Cataclysm Earthquake is more of a sense. This is a hot take. more of a sensible like breaking point for your chronology than the Battle of Yavin. I think before Quake, after Quake works better than BBY, ABY. Because when you really think about, in the grand scheme of Star Wars, like the Battle of Yavin was not a super monumental moment, in my opinion. But that's a hot take.
Well, I mean, nothing in Star Wars is a super monumental moment. So
yeah. So in this issue, the Blue Boys, they really lock down all of Tri-Corner, and their next plan is to move into Gotham proper and retake Old Gotham, which is where the police headquarters are. And Gordon openly is super biased on this plan because Barbara is also there. And their plan is to set two gangs against each other. It's the Street Demons and the Low Boys. And basically, it's a battle of strategy between Gordon's Way, who thinks that they can kind of just maneuver things, and then Petite, who is kind of like the trigger happy, like fucked up cop. Like he's not corrupt in any way, where like Bullock is slightly like Bullock likes breaking the rules and is playing a little dirty. Petite just likes shooting people, I guess. And he's like really into military history or something. And then we get the full Batgirl, or the new Bat character, and it's a woman, and it's quite a tall. I just instinctively call this person Batgirl because we know eventually what will happen with this. But it's quite tall Batgirl, so perhaps Batwoman is more apt. And they explain to some goon, as long as there are people in Gotham, there will be a bat. Which is, that's one of the often used elements in Batman stories, is that Bruce Wayne is just but a part of it, and the concept of Batman will live forever. And in the end, Gordon and Bach, they scratch over one gang's tags and put up the other gang's tags, but they get caught, which moves us to the next issue. But a really cool part about the Shadow of the Bat issue is we have some interludes here, and they're all called the Punk and the Blank. And the Punk is this guy. He looks really just like some scrawny kid, and he has a gun, and he's posted up, keeps trying to rob people. So he tries to rob someone for batteries, but the guy calls his bluff because a bullet would be worth way more than batteries. So he pulls the trigger, and he has no bullet. And then he tries to rob a kid, and some random dude with a bow, not Green Arrow, saves the kid, and they become buddies because the kid can crawl through spaces. And then he tries to rob a mysterious guy, and it turns out to be the Joker, who then murders him and starts up his tag and founds Jokerville, I guess. And he also sprays his victims. We get a little bit of, I think, is that the only Joker in this arc?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for a second I thought we were getting Joker later, but it ends up being someone else. That's Shadow the Bat. I thought the interludes were really fun.
I liked the interludes as well. I thought it illustrated a lot how like bullets are scarce. So like if you just because you have a gun, it doesn't really mean you're a threat, because most people are kind of at that notion where like, all right, you have a gun, you probably don't have bullets, and it illustrates again how like people are making these trades for more commonly useful things. Like we see in this arc that like backpacks are very sought after, flashlights are after. You need coats because it's getting cold soon.
Whereas Rolexes are not that valuable.
Well, but unless you go to the Penguin with them,
yeah.
which because he can allegedly sell them to get supplies because he has that outside connection.
Yeah. I thought this was kind of besides the interludes, which especially the first interlude was really clever. The rest of this is kind of just moving along and setting up. The main thing is establishing this, or not really establishing, teasing more this new Bat character.
liked Gordon drinking the dirty, rusty water because nothing's clean and just everything's falling apart. What do you guys think of the new the Batgirl outfit? I love it.
It's good. Of course, as I said, I'm used to it being a lot smaller, which we will get to.
Well, yeah, I mean, we play this thing where we know who it is, and obviously the person in that suit isn't who stays in that suit, but the design stays the same, and I do think it's one of the more better, cooler designs that we've seen for like a Bat Family costume.
I'll say also, at least within this entire arc, it's not remotely obvious who is in the suit.
That's true.
The identity is not really teased at all. Michael, any thoughts? And then you can move us into Batman.
I definitely agree. It's one of the more visually striking and unique bat suits. It's kind of interesting to me, something I've only just recently noticed, that like you don't really see eye holes or white lenses. It's kind of just dark indents for the eyes. So that combined with the mouth covering just makes the whole thing kind of different shades of dark. And yeah. Go on. I didn't really have anything there.
All right, we'll take us into Batman.
Oh, okay. Were you gonna say something else a second ago, or about the costume or something?
Nope.
Or... Oh,
Nope.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So moving on into part 3, the Batman 563, part 3, tactics. Starts out with a big spread. The demons have caught Gordon and his men defacing their tag, and blam, 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 everyone gets shot. All of the gang people get shot. And it's Petite in a ski mask, the trigger-happy, crazy cop. And he tells them, you guys are doing this wrong. You gotta kill people too if you want to get them fighting each other. So he drags the bodies under the defaced tag and does a little Warriors reference. I haven't seen this movie, but I've heard the quotes where he's like, demons come out to play, yay! And then the Warriors come out to play or whatever. And yeah, then he basically takes Gordon and the other cops just end up following his lead pretty easily. He just takes them on this little messed up joy run, riling up the gangs and getting them to fight each other. And yeah, then they've successfully started this little gang war. Then Gordon muses about whether or not he's doing the right thing, and and he's talking to Sarah about that while they're in bed, and we get a call back to the beginning of their relationship back in year 1. She's like, well, when that married cop was getting himself involved with a single detective, was he sure he was doing the right thing? He's like, I wasn't really sure about it. So yeah, Barbara's keeping up her diary, chronicling this increasingly bloody gang war. She doesn't really have any idea at this point, I don't think, that her dad has started it, or has been involved in starting it. Then these gang people are harassing this mysterious bearded guy we've seen before, who's pretty clearly someone in disguise. And turns out it's Alfred, and Batman makes his triumphant return. It's a pretty cool splash page, which in the back of the book they also have this page as one of the covers, but it looked like I've seen a different cover references the cover for this issue. Someone posted that earlier, but like the Joker cover. But yeah, this one it's a splash page of Batman jumping down from a bridge, and his face is completely in shadow. Like technically, there's not even anything drawn for his face except the eye sockets. And yeah, I'll just hold it up, I guess, if I'm just talking about it. Yep. And you can look it up if you want a decent picture of that. So yeah, Batman saves Alfred. He and Alfred talk about how they've been sneaking around this whole time, gathering intel. And Batman's like, I don't really know Gotham anymore. The city's collapsing. I don't know my way around. And yeah, the blue boys, the police come in and round up the remaining gang members after they've mostly whacked each other off. And Gordon and Barbara are reunited, and she discovers that this was also he could get to her largely. Like he makes a line like, "Oh, there aren't many women who could say a war was fought on their behalf," and she's just like, "Oh, you're kidding." And we don't get a whole lot of how she feels about all this, but yeah, it's a crazy apocalypse situation. So, um, yeah, and then they're trying to figure out how to deal with the gangbangers they've rounded up, and Petite's insisting, of course, that they should just execute them all. So Gordon decides to not go that far and just say, "Oh no, you're banished under penalty of death." And Petite's like, "Yeah, and we mean it too." Probably shoot someone in the head, and um, we see the new Bat girl person woman uh beating someone up, and then Batman faces her finally, and they just talk briefly about how, she wanted there to be a bat because he was gone, and nobody really addresses who is under the mask or not. That's still mysterious. And Batman says he doesn't approve her, but he doesn't approve her for now. And yeah, that's the end of part 3 of 4.
Yeah, the
Um,
the cover situation as referenced, and we went back and forth on this off the air, is really weird because the actual cover of this issue is totally a J. Scott Campbell cover featuring the Joker. But that's further confusing because the Joker is not in this issue.
Right.
Which then ties back to when you first see Alfred in disguise, and I think he has a cameo in a previous issue as well, just a real quick one. I was figuring that's the Joker, which I think is intentional. He's wearing like a hat or something, and obviously the Joker is not one to never use disguises either. Um,
Yeah, like Joker.
yeah. Um, I thought, and also as both of you have said in your relevant issues, Batman has just not been around for 100 days. Pretty much, we skipped that time, and he talks about they've been doing recon and stuff like that. But it's like, was Batman just like off the board and just like researching for a full 100 days? That seems odd to me. Or I expect we'll get more details on what he was doing.
I'm hoping, like, I was trying to figure that out too. Like, I was thinking, like, was there another DC event around this time that he would have been pulled into that makes an explanation for why he wasn't there? And I was coming up blank on that thought. So I think this is just a very weird plot device, and very weird character motivations for taking Bruce out. But I think it's like, to me, it seems like they had no idea to really have him get back into the city. So they just have him get back into the city, which and that's fine. He's Batman; he can do anything technically. Um, but they definitely kind of feel like the writers had, or at least the writers and editors in the room had, kind of grasping at straws for a way to get him into this back to basics approach, which we'll see. But yeah, overall, very weird character decision for Bruce to just kind of take him off the board for 93 days and then not really explain why. Hopefully, we do get it. I think we will, but just a very odd decision. Um, I liked this issue. Still, I like this whole story arc. I thought it was really good. Um, I like that Oracle notes the inner journal. We're on day 98, so we do have a sense of moving time. I liked Gale's and Malieve's capturing of how bad the war is. I liked how like they're resorting to propaganda as like they're burning their own like the low boys are burning their own bodies to make it look like they're trying to win the war and saying it's the demons. Um, Batman reemerging. I thought Maleev's pencils on the bridge jump were really really cool. And then there was a kind of like beautiful chaos in Maleev's layouts and pencils on the scene where Gordon's like on the megaphone trying to take back the territory. And then there's a very like I thought the sequence where Pettit murders the prisoner in cold blood was really really kind of shocking and scary, like it should have been. Um, and then I also liked the Batgirl Batman moment, where it's basically saying that he has to start using the tagging system to communicate in this now kind of broken down society. Those are my thoughts on the issue, though.
Yeah, I think we all pretty much covered it. Maleev's art I thought was good in the bat on bat combo because you kind of see the slightly different physiques, but it's the same design from afar, and you see the capes kind of both of them flowing into each other and separately. That was cool.
With that, I think I'm going to close this out with Detective Comics number 730. If we got nothing else to say, and if we do, since we don't, we open with Bruce and Alfred in this new makeshift Batcave. I know we're gonna see different makeshift Batcaves around the city. So when I like refer to like Batcave West, Batcaves East, and North, kind of like all directions. I don't know what one this is exactly yet. I know when we get to that that secret files issue, it'll have the layouts of all of them, and I think it'll be clear which is which, but we're not at that point yet. But the whole kind of crux of this is Batman has to go back to basics. He learns that Scarface is kind of the leader of the Tri-Corner area, and he wants to clear him out. And he does contact Oracle to try to get information. She's like, I can't help you. My computers are down. I can't hack into anything for you. And we get that moment where Batman says to himself, I've been over reliance on technology. I've forgotten that my greatest tool is my brain, which I like that. And I thought it was great that we get that moment in Detective Comics where we see him go back to basics, to the classic detective work. It was very good in the way they laid that out. So you get that moment in Detective. Bruce kind of scoffs off getting allies from Alfred, saying he has to do this himself, as Gotham is his responsibility. So that's kind of a classic kind of Batman trope of when things get really bad. What's the best way to make sure we don't have Batman have 40 billion allies at his disposal? Oh, just say he doesn't want to work with them because that's our go-to excuse. But so we're going to basically full back to square one Batman here. He kind of does a night reconnaissance on Scarface's lair. As we see, he's got these lieutenants, and the way it works is they're giving the scraps to the people, and they're protecting them. But with the rumor out that Batman's around, he's kind of like going crazy. I will say here that Scarface is missing an eye, so continuity is being paid attention to, because we saw Scarface get destroyed that last time we saw him, but he was fine in that Arkham issue. So, hey, at least he's missing an eye again, so I can sleep at night and not let my OCD take me over. But seeing that when Bruce is doing his reconnaissance at night, he counts the amount of men with guns, and kind of being careless, he gets fired at by one of them, and he notices the guy doesn't take a second shot. No, and he kind of deciphers through that oh, Scarface is only giving his guys one bullet because he's running low on supplies, and Scarface will heavily trade supplies for like this knockoff Coca-Cola that Scarface likes to drink. So Bruce, I guess, somehow has access to a lot of this, so he kind of goes in disguise to Scarface's compound, and he's very much in the year one kind of his on the street look. He's just missing the fake scar on him, so he's like in the tattered up coat with just the knit cap on. So don't exactly how they don't recognize that that's Bruce Wayne, because it's not the greatest disguise in the world, but I'll let it slide. And in doing so, he then gets the lay of the land that way, and he's going to trade bullets to them for supplies. So, and he makes the deal with Scarface where they're going to have this remote pickup in a section, so he can't get double crossed. So he leads Scarface and his men because he knows Scarface is going to pick this up himself because he doesn't trust any of his other men. And he basically rigs this box full of explosive, was like essentially flashbang grenades, and Batman's able to take all of them out. And he ties up Scarface and basically he keeps slapping him over and over, having him yell that Batman's in control, Batman's in control, which I liked that and thought it was pretty funny. So as Batman in the daylight, he gets a megaphone and he goes into the compound saying, "Hey, you guys are under my watch now," but also he needs to build the legend of Batman back up. His account here is that all of Scarface's men must be bad shots. So he's carrying Scarface in his hand and he knows the guards are going to take a shot at him, and they all have one bullet. So he gets hit once and doesn't go back. He gets hit in the back of the head and goes down, but he gets back up. And he basically made a gamble on this, saying that I know they might not have armor-piercing rounds, which they don't have. So Bruce's Kevlar or armor in his suit is able to save him this time. So it makes it look like Batman can't die, thus rebuilding the legend of Batman to these people. So, and he takes under Scarface's lieutenants because he sees that these people have basically kind of been broken down. They can't just return to normal society. So he has to leave the lieutenants, but he alters the deal. So the citizens are going to get a fair shake of shared supplies, and Batman's going to kind of check in on them momentarily, kind of sometimes, because as you know, he's going to be out doing the rest of the things. But Batman does start taking the spray paint tag, and he does proudly is the word I'm looking for. Proudly spray paints the bat symbol on the wall, crowning that this is the territory of the Bat, and that these people are under his control. And the last thing on that is Gordon is finding these bat symbols around the city, and he orders the Blue Boys to kind of paint them up, as he believes that it's still all a ruse. But hey, we conclude this arc with Batman's back, and he's claimed his first stake of territory in this new land known as No Man's Land. I thought this was a good wrap up of the story. I liked all the action. I liked the reconnaissance work and the detective work that went into it. Really, really smart stuff here. I thought we ended pretty strong. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it was really good. It's really there's interesting notes on how the status quo would affect things. He talks about how Gotham is too dark at night. There's no electricity, none of that. So even criminals don't go out at night, and also it's cold. So that's when he's able to get through all his reconnaissance and do his tags. And then I think Scarface and Ventriloquist are handled really, really well in this issue, in this arc, where when he's, with his own people and everything, I feel like, and it's in a crazy way, but I feel like Scarface is actually legitimately threatening and scary within his circle.
Oh, I agree.
And then once Batman takes everyone down and separates Scarface from Ventriloquist, then it really hammers home oh, Ventriloquist is fucking crazy and he's pathetic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not lessening the threat of Scarface from earlier. And this is that's how Ventriloquist and Scarface should work. This might be, and I haven't read the initial appearances from Grant and Brayfogle and everything like that. So right now, this is probably my definitive Ventriloquist appearance. And then I really like how Batman begrudgingly realizes that he has to play by everyone else's game.
Yeah.
Because he frees everyone. They underline the point that these people are worthless. And there's weird comments about how maybe some of them are mentally disabled or something, because anyone who was normal would have escaped from the ventriloquist. I don't think that was necessary.
Yeah, but I thought that was a little odd as well.
Because it's a legitimate point. There is no society, so it's not like he can take out the villain, free everyone, and they'll just go back to their jobs. There are no jobs.
Yeah.
And so he learns that this is the status quo that everyone's playing with, the cops and the villains. It's the same game, and he has to play by that system too. The old version of Batman where he beats up the goons and then the people are allowed to go back to their normal lives, that doesn't do anything in this status quo. And so he essentially, and differently from all the villains and the GCPD, at least in this instance, he's basically creating puppet states where he takes out the like king piece. Essentially, he takes out ventriloquist, the crazy villain, but then the like bureaucracy of his like lieutenant and his guards and everything. He's just like, yeah, you're gonna do exactly what you're doing now, slightly change it so it's fair, but now I'm your boss. Um, and so it's interesting, and maybe we'll hopefully see more of a kind of dig into that those concepts and everything. How he's basically doing the same thing that all the villains are.
Right.
Michael, any thoughts on this issue before we wrap up?
I thought it was a good conclusion to this opening arc. Overall, I think it was a good beginning arc to the story, introducing us to the status quo. Had one or two plot lines going at the same time, and yeah, I think by the end of this, we've pretty firmly established what the status quo and the world of No Man's Land are, and that just opens the door to everything that's going to come later, I suppose. So, yeah, solid story. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yep. Vince, what's to come next?
Well, you have your book in front of you, so you might be faster.
Well, we didn't read Azrael 50.
Oh,
The next issue is an Azrael issue. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming we're reading Azrael next.
Next episode is going to be a short one. We're going to basically dive into the big new status quo for Azrael.
And hey, Nick Scratch is coming back.
Yeah, should be a short episode, should be a fun episode. We've been enjoying Azrael so far. We've been enjoying this whole thing so far.
And we're going to see him get that new blue and red costume.
Yep. Thanks for watching this episode. Tune in next time, next week. And get home safe and check out all our other videos too. Lots of good shows.
Hey, enjoy San Diego Comic-Con this week. First night's tonight.
The 50th San Diego Comic-Con, but not the 50th anniversary, because numbers are weird.
Well, I mean, if you're the WWE, you'd say it's the 50th anniversary.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye. Go watch wrestling.